Okay. Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Media Mania Podcast. I'm your host, as always, the Media Maverick, Mike Weldon, and today I'm joined by a returning guest, a good friend of mine, Nathan Reno of Wheelie Weather, a certified storm spotter by the National Weather Service. What's up, man?
What's going on? Doing all right?
Man, it's all good here, man. I'm excited for the episode. I'm excited for you coming back on. A lot to talk about.
A lot to talk about, a lot to break down. Gonna have a fun little time.
Oh yeah. Especially the biggest talk about is what just happened with the new tornado investigation with I'm a butcher. Nathan can kick my ass later for pronouncing it wrong. It's Enderlin, is that correct?
You got it. Enderlin, North Dakota.
Enderlin, North Dakota. Yeah, the new investigation into getting it upgraded from to an EF5.
Yup, they spent NWS offices up in North Dakota spent well over 3 months investigating, doing homework, doing engineering projects and looking up. There's the official PNS public statement from NWS Grand Forks that shows this tornado being rated as EF5 210 mile an hour plus wind speeds. This was after a 3-month investigation and lengthy survey that included National Wind Institute's meteorologists from Canada, everybody's well-known favorite engineer, Tim Marshall, was in on the job. So what happened here was they brought in people from wind engineers to structural engineers to other meteorologists that they brought in from different areas who are certified, trained in their professions to basically break down calculations of what they call damage indicators. Now, the damage indicator that they used to assess the upgrade of the Enderlin tornado is a non-traditional DI. It's not a DI train. It ended up derailing a train, throwing several of these grain hoppers and tanker cars X amount of feet. So a train is not on the National Weather Service's list of 28, 29 DIs, again, or damage indicators. So they took these structural engineers, people from the Wind Institute, local meteorologists from, again, across the border. One of the meteorologists, who is a meteorologist out of Canada, is one of the ones who supplied the mathematical breakdown, his version of the mathematical breakdown, to see just exactly how far it would take, or just exactly how much force it would take for this tornado to throw an empty tanker car. The tanker car was empty. The grain hoppers were, if I recall, partially loaded, not fully loaded. I don't remember. It's been a couple days since I looked at that. But the tanker was thrown 475 feet. There is a peer-reviewed study from 2024 that details that large, extremely heavy objects, if they are lofted and tossed 176 feet or more, this signals EF5 strength. Well, that tanker car was thrown almost 3 times the length of 176 feet.
Mm-hmm.
You have to account for how much weight the tanker car itself weighs, loaded or unloaded. Then there's a mathematical breakdown between how much the tanker car weighs and how much force has to be exerted by a vertically rotating column of air, tornado, to take that tanker car and throw it 475 feet. Which, for those, we can relate it in a different way, is right around 1.5 football fields long. This being shown here is just a radar scope breakdown. Top screen, top pane is going to be reflectivity of the event. Bottom screen is going to be your velocity views, just southeast of Enderlin, North Dakota, in the around the Sheldon area of the event, the EF5 tornado, as it was in progress right around 11:05, 11:06, something of that time frame. Radar isn't, especially when you're using radar apps, this and that, it takes them just a minute to catch up. They're not instantaneous. So this was around 11:05 to 11:06, something like that, when the EF5 was arguably at one of its worst stages, or maybe just a tad further back west, when it was at its peak strength as it was moving through the east-southeast side of Enderlin there. But estimated wind speeds are, on the official rating, are 210 plus miles an hour. If you've looked deeper and looked deep enough into the mathematical breakdown, there have been 2 separate mathematical breakdowns, one by the June 1st YouTube page, Ethan Moriarty, and another again by the meteorologist from Canada. Both set the tornado within about 264 to 266 mile an hour range, somewhere right in there. That would have been the force used to loft this tanker car 475 feet. Another non-traditional DI of sorts was some nearby trees that were upgraded in the survey. They originally gave them an EF3 rating, but due to a fine granulated sandpapering effect on the trees and nearby vegetation, those trees were upgraded to an EF4. They were not given an EF5 DI, but they were given an EF4 damage indicator. Again, previous upgrade was from EF3. So they took their time, did their due diligence, and invited, multiple different resources in to get this survey accomplished, because I feel like they knew that this was it. This was one that was more so deserving, that it did catastrophic damage, and they recognized that. So they did their due diligence, got the people in to help with the survey, and came out with the conclusion of the EF5 210 mile an hour tornado that we were all presented on a random day in October. Nobody in the weather community expected to break the 12 and a half year drought on a random day in October. That was just absolutely wild.
So for anyone looking at the image we have up, how do you know where the tornado is? If you had to explain to everybody watching, how do you know where it is on the reflectivity?
So This is, again, top pane is reflectivity, bottom pane is going to be velocity. Everybody, you have a lot of people, again, who just, they're not weather nerds, they're not weather geeks. They have a basic radar, Weather Channel, AccuWeather, Fox Weather, whatever, that the top pane is all that's offered to them.
Mm-hmm.
And all that shows them is the reflectivity in the top pane.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Your greens, your reds, your yellows that you see in the top pane, that's just rain. That's all that is,
Yep.
unfortunately. Um, you get down towards Enderlin and it's broken there. Get down in between Enderlin and Sheldon, and it's broken. It's not super well defined. I've seen much better. I can think Alta Vista, Kansas, a couple years ago was a classic hook echo, but this is a hook echo. This also has to do with some of this has to do with the distance away from the radar that this storm ended up being, as to why it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
being clearly picked up. But there is a hook echo there, as you can see. Like I said, not well defined, pretty broken, but it's there. So you take the hook echo, and then you have to use other products. You can't just sit there and say, oh, well, there's a hook echo on, there's a hook echo on reflectivity. There's got to be a tornado somewhere in there. There
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily. No, there can be, excuse me, there's rotation somewhere in there. It's a good sign of rotation, but your velocity signature down here, just west of Sheldon, North Dakota,
Mm-hmm.
where the red meets the blue and that little tiny pane of purple there, that's about where your tornado would be, maybe a little further north. I personally think it was a little further north, again, due to just how far this storm was away from the radar, geographical issues that the radar may not have been picking up on. I personally think it was a little further north than what is being depicted. But that's just my opinion. But again, what you're looking for is you're looking for where that red intersects and couples
Mm-hmm.
like this with
Touch.
the blue, the purple. Normally, it's going to be with the green. But this is a higher end tornado, much higher end tornado, and the radar is doing a fairly decent job of picking that up. Most of your significant radar apps, Radar Omega, Radar Scope, like shown here, weather-wise, stuff like that, they max out their velocities at 140 miles an hour. So you'll see a big, white blob or a white
Yep.
connection or something like that. Your velocity is maxed out at 140 miles an hour. Still extremely impressive low end EF3 tornado. But it could be a lot higher. It could be the EF4. Again, we don't see, and I don't think if I went through the process that we would ever see the white show out here. If I recall, I don't think I saw any of that. So it was underestimated by most of your radar apps. But you knew when you saw your blues and your purples get in there that you're dealing with a fairly significant tornado. Once you see blues, purples, light browns, dark browns, again, depending on how far it is away from the radar, you're dealing with a significant source of wind speeds at certain levels of the atmosphere. You also have to account, though, for a lot of people. They take their images, they post them, they're like, oh, 120-mile-an-hour wind speed, but they're using a radar that's 170 miles away from that storm. And so
Yep.
that radar is scanning at, God, 6,000 feet above ground level. So it's scanning the mid and top levels of the storm. That whatever wind speed that they're reading isn't reaching the ground. Okay.
Yeah.
You have to take that into account, how far your radar is from the storm. You want to connect to the nearest radar um, that is closest to the storm in most cases. Now, when you get a storm that's right on top of the radar, you
Mm-hmm.
want to back it off a little bit, because
Yeah.
you're gonna get inaccurate readings. You can't see the whole storm. You're not going to be able to see, the structural features, anything like that, because it's right on top of the radar beam. And the radar beam, one goes up horizontally, one goes out. So you're not going to be able to get the whole picture of the storm if it's right on top of the radar. It's just something that you have to consider when you're using these apps. You have to be on the right radar
Mm-hmm.
to accurately assess what you're looking at. Also, again, while simultaneously taking into account how high that um, radar
Radar.
radar
Yeah.
beam, yeah, is scanning into above ground level into the atmosphere. If you can get a storm within 20, 25 miles, 30 miles, you might be scanning it 800 to 1,000 feet above the ground. So if that's the case, you've got a storm that you're scanning, and it tells you. I mean, it tells you, if you use a distance measurement tool, it tells you straight up how high that radar beam is scanning, depending on which I forget what they call them. There's I'm gonna look.
He, otherwise, he's going to cheat, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to use cheat code.
I'm going to my cheat code, because I want to, if you're gonna tell people, you got to tell people.
Yeah. Oh,
They're
yeah.
diff- it,
Oh,
it,
yeah.
it's different tilts. It's different tilts in the radar. So you have tilt 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they all scan. They allow you to see um, different perspectives of the storm higher up, because a lot of people, you'll also get when you're scanning on your storm, you'll see, as if you're too far away from the radar, people will see like a purplish ring or something. It's called range fold. You've reached the limitations of that radar's range. It's not going to go out
Yeah.
any further. So you're looking at a radar, you're staring there, and it's like it's purple, it's green, it's red, it's blue, it's yellow, and it's because you're on a radar that's too far away from the actual storm for you to do anything of significance with. And there's several unfortunately there's several radar holes in the United States where that's fairly common. I mean, down in the far southwestern corner of Kansas. I mean, Texas, down by Del Rio, Eagle
Mm-hmm.
Pass. They've got 3 or 4 radars that are around that area, but they could put one a little further southwest where you wouldn't have as hard of a time, seeing a storm.
Yeah.
Um, so there's different factors that you have to take into account, and unless you're really a weather enthusiast, weather nerd, meteorologist, storm spotter, atmospheric scientist, whatever, a lot of people aren't gonna unfortunately do that work to
Yeah.
just look at this and look at that and bring up reflectivity while they have velocity up, and then look at the differential reflectivity, and then look at the correlation coefficient, to see if everything matches up, to go out there and see if they indeed have a tornado on the ground or if they don't. But it is a process, because you can't look at just the one photo or the one image there
Mhm.
of reflectivity and say definitively with 100% accuracy there's a tornado on the ground. It can't be done, unfortunately.
No. And for anyone that doesn't know on a map, like where does North Dakota fall? Because as you know, there's many areas that are defined by their name for tornado. Like you have the traditional Tornado Alley, and for us here in Tennessee, we're in Dixie Alley.
So yeah, you have Tornado Alley, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, up into southern Minnesota, South Dakota. Technically, that's Tornado Alley. Even into portions of North Dakota, but a lot of people, and including in the weather community, consider it the high plains. You ever hear, Reed Timmer hollering about
Yep.
high plains insanity? He's in South Dakota.
Mhm.
He's in South Dakota. He's in North Dakota. He's in Montana, big sky country, high plains insanity.
Yeah. Perfect place to get some photogenic tornadoes.
Colorado, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota.
Yep.
Did I say Colorado? Because
You
Colorado,
did.
Wyoming. Yeah, perfect. Photogenic. If that's where you're looking, if you're looking for photogenic tornadoes, yeah, Tornado Alley and the northern high plains, even portions of the Midwest can offer some low precipitation supercells to where you can hop on it and click away with that Nikon and do what you need to do to get a photogenic tornado.
Yeah. Like
Yeah, there.
just some of the.
What's up?
Oh, I was gonna say, I've seen some of the videos from the Enderlin tornado, and just the one I've seen the most of is the one on that Ring doorbell camera that caught it.
And let's discuss that, because the Ring doorbell camera that caught the Enderlin tornado didn't really, you can't see the tornado. You can see the whole mesocyclone, which is a
Yeah.
beautiful bell shape.
Mhm.
I mean, that thing was that's one reason that I talked to you so much and a couple other people about getting out of Dixie Alley and going west, going, Tornado Alley, High Plains, Wyoming, Colorado, wherever, because we don't get it here. And anybody who knows, me knows I'm a structure junkie. That
Mhm.
structure, nothing better than a beautifully structured low precipitation supercell, um, or a beautifully stacked shelf cloud with some greenage, some bluish hues in there. High precipitation storm coming at you that has got a beautifully stacked shelf cloud that's blue and it's green, and you've got the rest of the country that they're like, what is it? This don't look good. And then you got your storm chasers that are just drooling, because it's so beautifully structured. It's stacked, mothership supercell. It's not something that is typically seen in most places in Dixie Alley.
Mhm.
And when we're talking about Dixie Alley here, which is, I was gonna say another subject we're gonna address. Thank you, Michael.
Mhm.
We're talking Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, portions of Louisiana. Kentucky's debatable. They more kind of an Ohio River Valley type thing. Southern Louisiana is really debatable because that's on the Gulf Coast. But in Dixie Alley, which we're about to go through fall season, um,
Yep.
you have there's so many inhibitors here that people just
Mhm.
they don't take into effect. And I'm probably shooting it low, but 98% of our storms are high precipitation supercells. They dump rain and dump rain and dump rain, and they got a big hail core on them that
Mhm.
after they're done hailing, it looks like it snowed in your yard. It's not huge hail. It has been occasionally in the past like year or two. I mean, I got golf balls at my house a couple of months ago, which was
Hmm.
lovely. But typically in especially where we're at in Tennessee, we don't
Yeah.
see we don't see over quarter size hail.
No.
Um, we can get some that's upwards of ping pong to golf ball size occasionally when your low level and your mid level lapse rates are elevated and up there in the 7.0 7.5 range, so that the air aloft is cooler, much cooler than it is at the surface. So those storms are being able to recycle those water droplets in the hail core longer and longer and longer and hold on to them, which the longer they hold them in the hail core and keep recycling them, that's how they get bigger. They just keep adding chunks of ice and chunks of ice the longer that they're recycled before they finally fall to the earth. Um, Again, more commonly seen in Kansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, especially Texas. Texas gets hammered with large hail, extremely large hail all the time.
Mhm.
So, but fall season is coming up in Dixie Alley, and a lot of people, and it's a common theme every single year when we, our first severe weather setup, which looks like we may not have to wait long. 9-10 days. I'm not sure about where it's gonna set up yet, but there's a trough digging in. Trough coming in from the Pacific, gonna shoot east. We'll see where it sets up, but fall season could get off to an early start this year, mid-October sometime. So, you know, you have, where was I trying to go with that?
Fault. You were talking about the trough setting up and how it was, where it's going to set up.
Yeah, so we could get into an earlier, slightly earlier fall tornado season, and a lot of people, they even living in certain places for 10, 12, 15, 20 years, they're still oblivious to the fact that they that we have a fall and early winter tornado season.
Mhm.
So it's something that we hear time and time and time again, where you get these severe weather setups, you get these enhanced risks, and you get these moderate risks, and heaven forbid you get a high risk in November, December, late October, early January, whatever. But it happens. You do. Um, and you throw it around on, you're looking your forecasts up on the models, you're doing this, you're doing that, and then you're making your posts, and you're telling people, hey, look, this is the setup, this is possibly coming, this is what we're possibly looking at, because nothing's ever a guarantee. There's always usually, a failure mode or two. Um,
Mhm.
there's some setups that they're clear cut and dry. No matter what you do, something nasty is going to happen.
Yep.
But a
Mhm.
good majority of your setups have failure modes where one or two things don't go that system's way, and it's not going to
And it
produce like
goes
you
bust.
do. What?
Yeah. I say it, and it goes bust.
Yeah, it's gonna bust. It's not gonna produce like you said. Like, oh, you made this post and then it busted. Well, yeah, the failure mode won out. Um,
Mhm.
and it happens time and time and time again. And that's where your people come in and say, oh, well, the weatherman was wrong. Oh, the weatherman got it wrong. I just try and do a forecast. Try and look it up. It's not near as easy as it seems when the models are spitting out one thing, and then the next day the atmosphere spits out, yeah, no, you thought so. But
Mhm.
people tend to dismiss the fact that tornadoes happen in November, December, January, February, and it gets them in a lot of trouble. Unfortunately, gets them in a lot of trouble because looking back,
Mhm.
and hindsight is 2020. Everybody knows hindsight is 2020. But
Yep.
you've got December 9th, 2023 tornado outbreak, which saw what, 6 tornadoes in Middle Tennessee, 7. You've got the December 10th,
Mayfield.
December 10th, 2021. That was a doozy. Mayfield, Kentucky, Bremen, Dawson Springs. Another EF4 went through West Tennessee, hit Reelfoot Lake, killed a bunch of people. You had the Boot Heel, Arkansas, Boot Heel of Missouri kick us off that night, and the first tornado of the night, second tornado of the night, long track tornado, whatever, hits a nursing home, and does damage, traps people, unfortunately takes lives. Again, December 10th, 2021. You've got an outbreak that was in December of 2015. Tennessee got rocked. You've got Super Tuesday 2008. Tennessee got rocked. That was on February the 5th. I mean, typically we're starting to warm up in February if we're lucky. If we're lucky, we can catch some days in the 50s and 60s. But most of your days are still spent, in doom and gloom, overcast skies with highs in the 40s and 50s, and 30s with blustery south winds, blustery winds blowing to the south, out of the north, and you're getting your butt kicked in the cold in February. Most people are like, okay, tornadoes can't happen. Well, one of the most significant tornado outbreaks in history, Super Tuesday 2008, happened in February. And people get this notion that it gets cold, tornadoes can't happen. All you need is, one little day where temperatures sneak into the high 50s, low 60s, or higher, because December 10th, 2021, where we had it, temperatures were in the 70s, and cold front came moving in, just like, is a typical fall wintertime setup. We get a day where random beautiful day in the 70s, 75, 76, and it's late November, early December, and we're just like, this isn't good. This just isn't good. And you see the end result, where December 10th was a nasty day.
Yeah. I remember that outbreak, the Super Tuesday outbreak. I remember it.
Super Tuesday was 2008. Give my age away a little bit. I was a freshman in high school when Super Tuesday happened.
I was 7 years old. I remember because a tornado hit Memphis, Tennessee, and it hit one of the malls in Memphis.
Yep. And Super Tuesday wasn't, I'm pretty sure Jackson was hit by an F4 on Super Tuesday.
And the reason I remember that day so well is because I was at that mall just a few hours before that tornado hit.
Yeah. But I mean, again, and we can go back as far as November. I want to say it was the 21st, 22nd. I just watched this last night. 1992. Southeast Texas got hammered. Southeast Texas got hammered. Started in Southeast Texas around the Houston metro, the Houston area, a little bit northward, and ended up through like 8 or 9 states with 70 or 80 tornadoes during a 2-day binge in, again, the late last half of November. A lot of people don't consider, when you showed that photo of Dixie Alley, Southeast Texas isn't in Dixie Alley, but it starts for them too. See, it's if you look, I cut it off when I cut it off when I did my thing, but it's
Yeah.
over here, and it's in the it's in technical tornado alley, but Southeast Texas, their season technically starts in November, December, January, February, March, April, all the way out to June. They got a
Hmm.
long season ahead of them. And there was 2023. Pretty sure 2023 is when the Deer Park, Texas EF3 hit. And that was during, I want to say that might have been, that might have been November 4th of 2022. But I know right around the Houston Metro, Conroe, Montgomery County, it's always mid to late November sometime, and they get a substantial severe weather threat, because I know November 4th, 2022. I want to say mid-November of 2023 they had one too. It might have been closer to the first of the year, but Deer Park, Texas got hit by an EF3 and destroyed a bunch of stuff. And I can say that was in late fall, early winter. Again, it's just something that people correlate: cold, snow, hot, tornadoes. And you're always going to have those people that just, I didn't think tornadoes could happen in the cold. I didn't think tornadoes could happen during this time of year. Reality is, yeah, they can. Yeah, they do. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, you have to be prepared. We're going into a La Nina winter, brief La
Hmm.
Nina, but we're going into a La Nina winter. And again, looking back at historical contexts and historical clues, typically a La Nina winter has bigger severe weather side effects. You can go December 21, December 23, 2019, December of 2015, and again, here we are back to Super Tuesday 2008.
Yeah.
All of them during a La Nina winter. All of them. Every last one of them during a La Nina winter. I'd have to go back and double check myself. I'm not certain. But I want to say the 1997 Rutherford County EF4
Mhm.
was mid to late winter during a La Nina too.
I
Um,
remember what I've read, just trying for county get hit in 2008 or 2009 by a tornado.
EF4, Good Friday 2009, April 10th 2009. We got hit by an EF4. Yeah. 23 and a quarter mile path, 170 mile an hour wind speeds, and unfortunately 2 fatalities as well as 58 injuries on that specific tornado. I'll have to go back and check if that was again. Now that one doesn't apply to really kind of the theme of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It was an April tornado season.
Hmm.
So it wasn't Dixie Alley in the South during the fall and the winter. It was spring tornado season when it happened, unfortunately. But yeah, April 10th, 2009, Good Friday. Everybody's off school. Nobody's off school, or I mean, nobody's going to school. Um, Everybody's, hanging out, chilling for the Easter weekend, and parents got to find daycare, this, that, and all the other, because they still got to work.
Hmm.
Um, Mine were off that day. Luckily, mine were off that day. But yeah, 2009. That was That was a messed up year. That was the what? That was April of 2009. That would have been the middle of my sophomore year. No, that was the middle of my freshman year because I started in late 2008. So yeah, that was the middle of my freshman year too.
Yeah, Rutherford County's had quite a history of tornadoes.
Yeah, Rutherford County is in the top 6 in Tennessee in tornadoes. And we're coming to a point where if it is a secret to people, it shouldn't be. Tennessee leads the nation in nocturnal tornadoes after dark. Well, getting dark earlier. Yeah, it got dark at what, 6:45
Yeah.
ish tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's getting dark earlier. We're about to change back clocks in early November.
Yep.
And then we go into fall tornado season, fall storm season, So unfortunately, that has a lot to do with it. Our, November, December tornadoes, we see the statistical peak through November, a small window in a small incremental rise in December of tornado activity, and it
Yep.
kind of levels off specifically for the Tennessee area January, February, and then we start back up again March, April, May. But there's other states in Dixie Alley where it just runs November through May.
Mm-hmm. Which
Mississippi,
states?
you can Mississippi, Alabama, portions of Louisiana, again Southeast Texas. They have November, December, January, February, and it can go. It just there's everybody thinks that people think, well, when is tornado season? In some of these places, tornado season is, you might as well almost say year round. I mean, statistically speaking,
Mm-hmm.
they can happen year round. We just see statistical peaks, and
Yep.
our, again, second season, which we're on the subject of, fall season, statistical peak is November. Spring season, April, March, April, somewhere around there, we start to kind of flatten off in May. But some of these other states, Mississippi, Alabama, they don't. It's just constant November, December, January, February, March, April. I can't think of the name of the city, but it was there was an outbreak January 12th of 2023 that it was Autauga County, Alabama. EF2, EF3 tornado. There was one EF2 and an EF3, both. There was an EF2 that strengthened into an EF3 as it moved through Autauga County, Alabama. And then further on down the line, as they issued tornado watches for West and North Central Georgia, including the Atlanta metro, again, January 12th, 2023. So still winter time in the South. We haven't switched over to spring, but they issue a tornado warning or a tornado watch for the Atlanta metro, and then within like an hour and a half, 2 hours, a small town just southwest of downtown Atlanta metro, Griffin, Georgia. One of the wildest tornado surveys I've ever seen is struck by 5 tornadoes at once. They said, if I can find the survey, I will. National Weather Service Peachtree just went through aerial surveys, radar imagery, satellite imagery, all this other stuff, and they concluded that at one point in time, this storm had up to 5 circulations on the ground at once, which to me is crazy. I
Mm.
mean,
Oh,
okay, you see twins every once in a while. Rarely do you see triplets in a tornado scenario, but 5, that was something to see. Um, and the worst of it was a large EF3 that tore through downtown Griffin. Luckily, no fatalities. Nobody lost their lives. Couple injuries, no fatalities. But again, continuing with the theme, another
mhm.
late fall, early middle winter tornadoes, tornado outbreak. Um, I know that Attuga County that day had a little loss of life. I don't remember the exact number, and it's not important, but Attuga County had loss of life during their EF2 EF3 portion of their tornado that day. Um, there were several tornadoes that day. Like I said, I can recall the date vividly. Um, Tracked it on radar, watched it happen, saw everything go down. Another thing that I think that people need to understand with a lot of people, they don't understand the oscillations, the um, El Nino, Southern Oscillation, the La Nina, the Enzo phase, this, that, and all
Mhm.
the other. Well, again, going into a La Nina, this is going to, bring a wetter pattern for some regions, a drier pattern, cooler pattern for others. But what happens is the jet stream changes, dips further south. You also have, in combination with another jet stream, the subtropical jet that comes up from the Gulf. So you've got Gulf moisture being transported north. The Gulf is still ridiculously warm. Um, 84, 85, 86 degrees. So unless, and we still got October and part of November to go, but unless we see, a substantial tropical system move through there, it's not going to cool the Gulf off. It's not going to cool
No.
the Gulf off.
No.
So then you have to think where all of that, where does that tropical, where does that tropical moisture, where does that tropical heat go? If it gets,
Goes north.
if it remains the same, it gets pulled up by the subtropical jet. That's going to add storm fuel to any potential trough setup that digs down into the southeast United States, even into portions of the mid out west, Tornado Alley, the plains. That's
Yep.
what I was looking for. That I get so tongue tied, Jesus. But you're gonna, dig warm tropical air into your air mass, and you got a front coming through, or whatever, trough front, whatever you want to call it. It's going to provide your lift for your thunderstorms. Your warm moist air, that's going to provide your instability, your storm fuel, your cape, whatever you want to call it. Those who know cape,
Mhm.
convective available potential energy. And
Mhm.
it's just that's one of the things that we struggle with during the late fall winter months, is getting the instability. A lot of times that jet, it'll work the tropical moisture up north. It'll give us the dew points that we need. um Mid 50s, low 60s, mid 60s, whatever you need. So it'll give you that. Then you've got whatever your source of lift is moving in from the west. But is your instability there? You have to have instability for a severe thunderstorm,
Mhm.
or severe weather. Well, if you're still able to pull off of an 85 to 88 degree Gulf, yeah, we shouldn't have any problems, unfortunately, with providing these storms the storm fuel that they need to ignite and initiate severe weather. So La Nina opens up what's called northwest flow. Northwest flow coming down out of the Pacific Northwest helps to increase shear in other portions of the country, which is a source of lift to provide these thunderstorms part of the axis they need to form and end up going severe. People have heard, you need shear, speed shear and directional shear for tornado formation. Well, northwest flow is going to aid in the adaptation of more favorably sheared environments for these thunderstorms to work with when they are initiated and when there's an incoming, trough dry line. Typically you see a dry line out in Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, Nebraska. They don't typically sneak as far east as the Mississippi River or past the Mississippi, but occasionally you'll get a dry line set up that sneaks out there. But northwesterly flow that we're going to be looking at is going to induce a higher amount of sheared environments, which would give these thunderstorms potential to just rotate and give these updrafts potential to rotate and do what they need to do, or not. If you're not a weather enthusiast, whatever way you want to look at it, and some produce tornado genesis.
Yeah. I know a lot of people that have heard the myths or talk about the myths that surround like what to do during tornado weather, like what you'll hear, like what a tornado sounds like when it's coming, or what to do to like open your windows, open your doors, all that stuff.
No. Yeah, you're right. A lot of myths. Back in the old days, back in the, Dust Bowl era, 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever, common misconception myth was if you opened your windows, you opened your doors, it would release the pressure in your house and your house wouldn't go during a tornado.
Yep.
It's going to go poof no matter what. It's due to an atmospheric drop in pressure from a tornado. There are atmospheric drops in pressure in the inner vortices and the inner cores of tornadoes. That's why your ears pop. That's why you hear stuff. That's why you feel the pressure in your head and your ears change when you've got a tornado in relatively close proximity to you because of the pressure changes in the atmosphere. Now, people thought in the old days, old wives' tale was open the windows, open the, do what you got to do to save your house. Your windows are going to come in on you anyway. Your house is going to come down depending on the strength of the tornado. Whatever the case may be, it's not going to make a difference, unfortunately. And people have learned that that's not going to make a difference. And they've learned not to, waste their time trying to open windows to save their house. The idea, again, as always, that's preached is lowest level of your house, most centered room, surrounded by the most interior walls, away from windows and doors. So the idea is you want to put as many walls between you and the storm, you and the outside, as possible. Small closet, small room, bathroom, interior bathroom, whatever. We try the best we can to get away from any rooms that have an outside wall connected to the garage. Once the garage door is sucked out, it becomes like a vacuum, the garage door, and that side of the house typically collapses due to the immense atmospheric pressure change. It's just like it's like a wind tunnel. So typically we say if it's got an outside wall connected to the garage, try your best to stay away from it. If it's your only option, do what you got to do. Cover yourself with blankets, cover yourself with pillows, go out and buy um, bicycle helmets, batting helmets, football helmets, hockey helmets, motorcycle helmets. The most common injuries that are seen during a tornado fatality are blunt force injuries
To the head.
to the neck and head. Blunt force injuries to the neck and head. And you can, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, doesn't take a fifth grader, anybody to tell anybody, whatever. That's what happens when you have debris being thrown and hurled at you, like a spear at 120 miles an hour. Or you have stuff falling on you, or, whatever. And in some unfortunate instances, you have a full-size car being hurled into the side of your building, or, whatever the case may be. Realistically, if it wasn't for the debris, most people could walk outside and stand in tornadoes up to a certain wind speed. Get a little tough, right around 150, 160 miles an hour. But
Mm-hmm.
if it wasn't for the debris, we could all go off to Oz peacefully.
Yeah. Then you have the people that drive under overpasses and try to stay under them.
Yeah, I could get hooked on that subject for another hour. Don't do that. Don't. No, I'm sorry. I don't. I'll be the bad guy if I got to be the bad guy. I don't care what you think about your car. I don't care how much your car costs. I don't. I really don't. I'm sorry. If you're in a storm, don't stop underneath an overpass or an underpass, please. It's for one, you're impeding the flow of traffic.
Mm-hmm.
That's a traffic violation. That's illegal. For two, especially living here, I preach this one, where our tornadoes are rain wrapped and you can't see them.
Nope.
You stop under an overpass, and then you got 150 cars stop behind you. What happens if there is a tornado that's rain wrapped that you don't see, that is, heading straight for you and the conga line of cars that's behind you? Everybody's SOL. Everybody's in doo-doo up to their neck because you decided that some ping pong ball size hail was going to crack your windshield for a minute and you didn't want to pay for a new windshield. Well, you just might. Odds are low. I will say that. I will put a disclaimer in there. But you just might be paying for a whole lot more than a windshield, if that ends up being the case, because then you got your car and their car, and there's lives. And yeah, if there's that's one of the things that I dislike about all of the, on enhanced risk, moderate risk, high risk days, all the chaser convergence. You got a conga line of storm chasers who are out there running and gunning for the next, storm photo, beautiful storm photo, photogenic tornado, photogenic, shelf cloud, whatever it is. But you're behind a line of, God, heaven forbid, 35 chasers, and there's an EF3 on the ground off to your southeast. And that's just, what are you gonna do? It's off to your southeast. You're behind a conga line of chasers, and that tornado is racing to the northwest or the northeast. So the tornado, my bad, I messed that up. Tornado's off to your southwest.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
One of the myths I know to be true, well, at least that I've heard with my own ears, is it sounds like a long black train coming at you.
Yeah, I was gonna speak to that. And just got hung up on the conga line and the people under the overpass. That one just really irritates me. But yeah, typically, a lot of the way that people put it is that you're listening to a train. You're listening to a low roar, that gets louder and louder and louder, and does its thing. It sounds like a low rumble of thunder that just doesn't quit, doesn't go away. And I know I can speak to the fact that in the early portions of it, if it's close enough and just kind of forming, getting off the ground or getting on the ground for that matter, you're looking at it. It sounds like a whistle, a high pitched whistling noise. Um, so you've got your low rumble, your train, whistling noise. Some people have compared it to loud jet engines. Yeah, and it's unfortunately one of those things that you don't want to, but you just have to experience to understand it. I mean,
Mm.
okay, from a safe distance, yeah, sure, let's listen to the roar of the tornado, but close up in person, no, thank you, no,
Yeah.
thank you. Can be a
Kiss your
weather
ass goodbye. Kiss
can
your
be a
ass goodbye.
can be a weather enthusiast, storm chaser, all you want to. Not at the house, please. Not at anybody's house, God forbid. But just in a field that's where it can roam freely, do what it needs to do, tear up some grass and some trees. Sure, that's cool. Let's listen to it roar. But
Mm.
anybody's coming by anybody's house, no thanks.
And you mentioned this earlier in the episode, like way earlier, like at least 20, 30 minutes ago, about the hail core being green. I was going to use a quote, like one of my favorites. It's going green.
Going green, we got greenage, and honestly, that's not you. A lot of people correlate that with tornado activity and everything like that. It's not an indicator of a tornado. It's not. It's semi linked to hail, but it's more so linked to precipitation in the storm, heavy rain, opposed to um tornadoes and hail and stuff like that. Yeah, it can indicate hail. It's not, there's no direct correlation, no direct link between greenage or blue hued skies and tornado development. No. But it definitely is an indicator of light refracting off of ice or water particles in the sky, and scattering the light. That's why you see blue, green, um, and in a non-storm scenario, that's why you see, like tonight with the sunset, you see oranges, you see pinks, you see purples, the light's being refracted
Mm-hmm.
through the particles in the clouds. That's all that is. But when you're seeing greens and blues, there's some precipitation in there, likely some high precipitation, heavy rain, probably some hail. I know one of the last storms I saw, it was earlier this summer at some point. I was at work, outside messing around with the lightning and filming it and doing this and doing that. And that storm had some greenage to it, but it wasn't very impressive. I mean, we got a lot of heavy rain, and I I took a picture, but I didn't post it. I wasn't trying to start that. We got a picture of I got a picture of a decent scud cloud that looked like a funnel cloud. It looked like a funnel cloud for sure. I had to look at it for a minute to be like, this might get good. And then I was looking at it and I was like, that's not it. Um, but yeah, there was a scary looking cloud at one point. It was just, it was cool to see, but that was one of the better storms I saw this year. That, like I said, it had some greenage to it. And then in 2024, I got a stacked shelf cloud. I want to say it was May. It's in my phone. That had blue green hue tint to it. And that was pretty cool. But it's not, again, not necessarily a um reliable indicator of tornadic weather.
Yeah.
They just happen to happen
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when the sky is greenish blue. It's not for certain, oh, the sky is green, oh, the sky is blue, here comes a tornado type thing.
Yeah. And another thing I use from the first Twister movie, you know what I'm about to talk about. We talked about it earlier, the EF5. That one of the words people use to describe EF5, to quote the late great Bill Paxton, is "it's the thumb of God."
Yeah, it's the finger of God, and that was Bill Paxton, and that is, I mean, that's just, I mean, that's there's truth to that, and that's what many weather enthusiasts, chasers, whatever, that's something that is just revered for, the worst of the worst, and something that a lot of people, they just never want to encounter, they never want to see, but unfortunately it happens. We can't stop it, no matter how hard we try, what we do, whatever. You're unfortunately always going to have these catastrophic violent tornadoes.
And like
um
just we just had the one with the Enderlin, North Dakota, that just broke the EF5 drought.
yep, Enderlin, North Dakota broke a 12 and a half year drought. So you're always, unfortunately going to have them, and they don't discriminate on location or anything like that. I mean, people have sometimes the underlying myth that tornadoes stay away from big cities. Oklahoma, Nashville, Oklahoma City. They can all attest, Joplin can all attest that they don't discriminate.
Hell, not even big cities, just the one that I don't like talking about. We talked about a little bit the other night, was in Arkansas, Lake City.
Yep. Lake City, that was a big one. That was definitely a big one. Rough tornado. That was an interesting tornado to watch. But they don't.
It was.
They don't discriminate. They don't play around. So
No.
they
And the reason, the reason, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I was the reason I don't like talking much about it is I have family in that immediate area.
Right. Yeah, they do.
And when I saw that first image of that, I don't know if it was a car or a truck. It was a red car, red truck, something, and it just looked like a crushed Coke can.
Yep. And that's what happens when you have, 170, 180, 190 mile an hour winds.
Mm-hmm.
You have,
if you had,
debris that just doesn't look real.
No. Hell, one of my, I don't want to keep talking about Twister, but one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when it's Joe, Bill, and what's her name, the other lady that he was. They're all in the truck together, and I gotta call you back. We've got cows.
Yeah. I think it's Melissa.
Melissa, yeah, I'm happy with Melissa.
Yeah, we got cows. I gotta call you back. Another cow. Nope, same cow.
Yeah. If I ever see a cow get lifted by a tornado, I'm gonna call you the second I gotta call you back. We got cows.
I gotta call you back. We got cows. Click. Yeah, that was a classic line.
It was. If you had to,
classic little one-liner.
Yeah. And in case y'all didn't know this, if you look in the top right corner of your screens, you'll see the Media Mania Podcast logo, and you'll see it has a little alteration to it right now because of what October is, and Nathan being a very good friend, like a brother to me. He is in a wheelchair, and he battles spina bifida. Is that correct? Spina bifida. He's had that his whole life, and I wanted to just show my support for it.
And I truly appreciate it. Way I look at it, just a disability. You have to adapt and overcome, and can't let it define who you are. Can't let it get you down. That's just my stance on it. I've dealt with it for 31 years.
What would you say is your most useful tool for storm chasing?
Probably radar. I mean, yeah, you can't do anything without it. You really, if you're storm chasing, you've got to have a good radar. You really have to have a good radar.
You do.
If you don't have a good radar, you're pretty much blind.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna bring in I'm gonna bring in someone real quick if they want to ask a question. If that's all right.
Okay.
Yo.
What? Welcome, JD.
Hey, what's up? Hey, nice to
How are
meet you,
you?
dude. Yeah, nice to meet you. Hey, I don't know if you know this, but I'm JD. I run Mayhem Media, and you were talking about storm chasing and stuff, and he told me a little bit about you. And since you're still going, since I wrapped up what I was doing, I wanted to just hop in and say hello. And I think it's awesome. So I just wanted to come in and say hello. And that was my question about your most useful tool for storm chasing.
Okay, yeah, and I appreciate it. Thank you much. Always, you just, in all fairness and honesty, I mean, you have to have it, because if you're out there and you're out there and you're chasing, a lot of times you're in a dead zone.
Yeah.
You're in a place where you can't get anything, and radar is your eyes to that storm, especially if it's a high precipitation cell.
Yeah.
You want to see what you're looking at, and that's why knowing how to read radar is so
Important.
so instrumental in what you're doing.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask you another question?
Yeah,
Mike,
go
you don't
ahead.
mind if I hijack your show quick, do you?
Oh no, yeah, not at all, man.
Do you drive? I know you have spina bifida. Do you drive yourself around when you're storm chasing, or do you have a driver?
Right now, no. I drive with friends and ride with friends. I
Okay.
don't have a car specifically outfitted for me.
Yes, and I understand that. I don't know if you can tell. I'm not on camera right now. I have my camera off. It's late at night, but I have arthrogryposis, so I have an electric wheelchair.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
I was curious about if you drove yourself, because I also did have a van at one point in time that I could drive. So I was curious if you drove yourself, or if you had other people drive you around. And do you have a preference though? Like, do you prefer so that you can like do more with the radar and pay more attention to the storm, or do you prefer to be the driver and be in control?
No, yeah. Personally, I would prefer to be more radar, navigational, whatever. Yeah. But then you also want that driver aspect, because you're not going to know if that tornado comes down. People might freak.
Yep. So you want to be in control, because you know that you'll be able to keep it under control and won't have a freak out like someone else may.
Yeah.
Well, that's
exactly.
Actually, for those watching, that's actually one of me and Nathan's plans for the next storm season in 2026 is to do some chasing with me and him and possibly one other person.
Not me. I'm not coming all the way down there. I live up in Pennsylvania.
There you go. Okay.
So
yeah, definitely going to have probably at least one other person, but definitely going to get out there and see what we can't do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're gonna have to take some footage. We're gonna have to negotiate some of that so we can show it on Mayhem Media. Some of the footage or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and if you haven't yet, if you've been watching, if you look up in your left-hand corner of your screen right now, you'll see a QR code pop up. It'll take you right to the Mayhem Media storefront.
Do you have any outlets or anything?
He does, yes. Oh, I thought he was talking to you, Mike.
No, I know Mike does. He works for me. I don't really care about him. You're the guest.
Yeah, you can find me Twitter at Wheelie Weather. My YouTube is at Wheelie Weather 94. On Facebook at Nathan Reno.
Sweet. All right, man. I'll hop out.
And he also has a storefront.
I had to jump in and say hello, and especially another person with disability who's out there doing some of that stuff like storm chasing. I love storm chasing. I love storm movies. I love storm documentaries. I love storm biographies. I love it all. So I just wanted to come in and say hello.
Well, I definitely appreciate it, and I enjoyed talking to you. I can tell you that right after this ALCS game gets over with, I will be clicking on some storm documentaries myself.
Excellent. Nice. Are you a fan of on HBO Max right now? There's what's it called? Eye of the Storm.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that, especially one of their newest episodes. That December tornado outbreak in 2023 was Oh, the closest tornado to me, I think, was maybe 35 miles, but Clarksville, Tennessee is about an hour and a half drive, and they got decimated. They really got decimated. So yeah, I watched that episode. I've watched several of them. If it's got to do with storms, tornadoes,
Yep.
anything like that, I'm on it. I'm
Yep.
on.
Same. Yep. Same. Me too, man. Yep. If I ever hit the lottery or hit it big, I might spend a season or two storm chasing, but that would be the only likely way that would happen, because I know you guys have to be dedicated in order to get that stuff done, and in order to be able to track it. And oftentimes it's usually a bunch of let's hurry up and wait for a storm that sometimes doesn't show up. So that takes patience that I likely don't have.
Realistically, that's the only thing preventing most chasers from going full time is the monetary aspect of it.
Yep.
A lot of your chasers that you see, myself included, are just hobbyists,
Yeah.
So if you can hit it big, yeah, chasing every day or whenever the storms are there for the rest of your life, yeah, that'd be great. That'd be absolutely awesome. But it's the root of all evil, and you gotta have it. So
yep, absolutely. All right, well, I'm gonna hop out, and once Mayhem Media makes it big, and we'll hit you up about some contracts for storm chasing then.
absolutely enjoyed talking to you, JD. Have a good night,
Yep,
bro.
absolutely, man. You guys have a good time.
You too.
All right. If you had to leave the viewers who've been watching with any final bits of knowledge, what would you leave them with to have them more weather aware?
Have them more weather aware. Pay attention. Pay attention to the forecast. Listen to your local National Weather Service office, your local meteorologist, no matter how much you think they're wrong. Because a 20%, 30% chance of rain doesn't mean it's a 20 or 30% chance of rain for your house. It's over a generalized area. So no matter how much you think that, the weather enterprise gets it wrong and that they're glorified, paid to be wrong, you wish you could be paid to be this wrong, blah, 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 listen to them. They know what they're talking about. They wouldn't have graduated with a bachelor's or a master's degree in environmental sciences, meteorology, whatever the case may be, if they didn't earn it. Honestly, go on there, and you can just Google some of the mathematical equations and all of this other good junk that it takes to get a degree in meteorology and everything like that. And no, you don't have to have a degree to be a storm chaser. Is it recommended?
Yes.
Sure, why not? All the extra curriculars and extra activities and extra knowledge you can gain, yeah, it's going to give you an upper hand, especially when it comes to your forecasting and your techniques and being able to read radar, being able to read models, being able to put a forecast together, being able to decipher this, decipher that, because if you're looking at, you can't just run through, the GFS composite reflectivity on the 0Z run and say, oh, there's a couple storms. Well, this is going to happen. Oh, they could be severe. They could be this. They could. Well, is there any convective available potential energy? Is there any shear in the atmosphere? Is there any sin in the atmosphere? Where's the location of the low pressure system? Where's the ridge? Where's the shortwave trough? What's going on in the atmosphere? You got to look at list by list by list by list. You got to look at, your 500 millibar, your 700 millibar, your, this millibar. You've got to look at the upper atmosphere, the middle atmosphere, the lower atmosphere. Do your storms match up with the location of the projected cape, the projected best shear values? What does your storm relative helicity look like? What does the curvature of your hodograph look like? Does the curvature of your hodograph support highly sheared thunderstorms with a veering wind profile? This, that, and all the other. There's so so much. And I personally haven't done a good detailed breakdown in months, because we've just been realistically, we've been so slow. After May, after May, middle into June-ish, right around just after the Enderlin tornado, we kind of right off cliff. There's been tornadoes here and there. There was 3 in I want to say Tangapahoa Parish, Louisiana, like 4 or 5 days ago, that came in off the tropical waters, had tropical moisture associated with them. But it's been spotty, which is great. I mean, the last update I looked at from the SPC page, which unfortunately this is just facts. We're not getting political here. I can be, but I am not political. Due to the government shutdown, these websites are not being updated. National Weather Service offices and entities are government-run programs. We have the government shutdown. They're not updating their websites. They're not updating their archives. On a local level, you're still getting forecasts. You're still getting severe weather alerts. You're still getting, SPC outlook, Storm Prediction Center outlooks. You're still getting WPC weather prediction, excessive rainfall, flash flooding risks, the high risk or the moderate risk in Arizona, Nevada, Southern California, associated with Tropical Storm Priscilla, if you want to call it that. By the way, Tropical Storm Karen was a reach too.
Well, of course, look at the name was Karen.
That everybody was so prepared for. Oh, look, there's Karen. Hey, there's Karen. Oh man, this is gonna be a good one, bro. It formed so far north. It's the furthest north forming storm in history. Karen actually made a little bit of history with her weak self. Subtropical storm, not even 40-mile-an-hour winds, 45-mile-an-hour winds maybe. And it's just going to ride her happy self off into the ocean. But Karen was the storm to watch. Karen was the storm to watch. Ooh, Karen's going to go big. No. Historically, it's that I storm, Imelda. Mm-hmm. And that and the O storm, which I don't think, fortunately, I don't think we're getting to this year. It's been slow. So we got Karen. She's out of the way. Don't worry about Karen no more. Middle of October, start watching the Gulf. Start watching Central South America, Central American gyre. And I'm gonna leave it at that because I know that there's a time slot and a time limit on these podcasts. I'm not going to go into it because we'd be here for another hour. But middle of October, end of October, again, start watching Central South America.
I know. I was looking at one of the radars the other day. Wasn't there a hurricane on the towards the lower part of California, Arizona, all that?
Yeah, that's Priscilla in the Eastern Pacific. She's not gonna make landfall, but the tropical moisture is gonna be advected northward, and cause some flooding issues. It's already causing flooding issues in Southern California, Arizona, Nevada, Utah, Southeast, Southwest Colorado, stuff like that. They're going to see some decent rainfall into early next week from that event. But there's also, I forget the name, and I'm not cheating right now, but it's not prevalent. There's another one forming behind Priscilla too that is going to take a similar path. So the desert Southwest into, the West Coast might see a fairly substantial amount of rain to end out October. A lot of rain in a short amount of time that they don't need. A lot of people think that, they're dry, and yeah, they're in a drought, but I don't care if you're in a drought that is, causing burn bans. Nowhere needs 6 to 8 inches of rain in a 2-day period.
No.
6 to 8 plus. It's not gonna bode well. The ground can be so dry, and only soak up X amount of rain before it starts ponding. It can only soak it up so fast and so efficiently before it starts ponding, and before you start having either low-lying flooding issues or worse, especially for some of those in Southern California, Nevada, whatever. The wildfire burn scars. When you have wildfire burn scars out there, they flood a lot easier than your average area. Take a look at how many times a year a flash flood emergency gets issued for Ruidoso, New Mexico. Ruidoso, New Mexico, was it 2023? 2023, 2024. They got devastated by a wildfire. And ever since then, it's just been, and even before that, it's just been flood country. Every time they get 2.5 inches of rain, that place is a wash, a big wash.
One of my last questions I want to ask you, I don't know if you've had a chance to go watch it yet. It's brand new. It just premiered last night, the new 911 Nashville TV show. The very first episode, they did a whole tornado episode, and I just wonder if you had a chance to watch it, what were your thoughts on them doing a tornado episode?
It was decent. It wasn't bad. Wasn't my favorite, but tornado looked realistic. I didn't like how they, portrayed the stage collapse first due to, I guess high winds. It happens. It happens more often than we think it happens, but I didn't like, that just was like, oh, okay. And then they were trying to lead into the tornado coming and all this other junk. And like I said, I watched it, I enjoyed it. And anything like I was telling JD, anything to do with weather, I'm gonna watch. After this baseball game that I'm up here keep staring at gets over with. That's what I'm looking at. I'm watching the Detroit Tigers. I'm sorry. Every time, or once this baseball game is over with, I'm gonna probably jump to a weather video on YouTube or wherever I can find it, whatever.
Okay.
And stuff like that. That's what I do at night, and that good and well. 2-3 o'clock in the morning, I'm up watching tornadoes. I'm up watching supercell thunderstorms, or rewatching videos on Hurricane Andrew, something of that nature. My parents lived through Hurricane Andrew. I've heard hundreds of stories about it. So Hurricane Andrew, Hurricane Michael, I'm always on YouTube watching something good.
Do you have a favorite medical, they have the 911 TV shows, the Fire Country TV shows. Do you have, being a weather lover and all, which one do you watch the most that has kept your interest?
Specifically pertaining to like a medical series?
Yeah. The Rookie, something like that.
Yeah. It's probably going to be The Rookie. I was watching that last night too, but it's probably going to be The Rookie. I enjoy Nolan, and that every time
Daddy Cop.
Huh?
The OG Daddy Cop.
Yeah. I was gonna say no, my dad wasn't a cop, because it's gonna be funny and hypocritical, but my dad was actually a cardiologist. So
yeah, that was a question from That was a question from JD in the comments.
Yeah, I actually like the Rookie. good TV show, good series. Anything to do with SWAT.
I
If
know. Yeah.
as long as you don't have a weak stomach, check out the new Ed Gein series either on Netflix or YouTube. YouTube it. That's pretty out there. But you can't have a weak stomach. I'm sorry.
No.
And they're dropping. It's a new series on Netflix. I haven't reactivated my Netflix yet. I don't know if I will, just to watch a couple of them. I'll find stuff on YouTube. I'm all over YouTube.
I'm actually I keep looking away. I keep looking at there because I got the Perfect Storm movie on my TV right now.
I watched that the other night. I think it was right after we got off the phone. I watched. I had just clicked it on when you called. Yeah. And honestly, if you go back, I saw this last night while I was just staring at the TV. There's people that you've got AccuWeather, you've got Fox Weather, you've got all these different weather channels that you can tune into now, with the exception of the Weather Channel because the coverage on there has just tanked.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the questions, it was I laughed. I found it highly hilarious. One of the questions was because there's a low pressure system coming off the East Coast. There's some cooler air behind that low pressure system. And then you have your nor'easter that is, what is today? Friday?
Yep.
Today's Friday. So you have your nor'easter that's getting itself underway off the space coast of Florida. They have seen significant rainfall today. Upwards of 8, 10, 12 inches in some places on the space coast of Florida. Well, your nor'easter is going to traverse the coast. So your nor'easter is going to go up here,
Mm-hmm.
while your low pressure system is coming off here, and they're going to meet. Okay.
Yeah.
So somebody asked the question. I need to change this background. It's terrible. Somebody begged the question of, do we see any similarities from the nor'easter and the low moving off the East Coast to the perfect storm of 1991? Because in a way, that's what happened. You had Category 5 Hurricane Grace, low pressure system off the East Coast up north of New England.
Yep.
And Hurricane Grace made her little way up there, and they met, decided that they liked each other and became a couple, and boom.
Yeah, perfect storm.
Perfect storm in 1991, which unfortunately, realistically, did sink the Andrea Gale.
Yep.
And all of her crew. So, but no, this nor'easter is not going to be, there's differences in the low, there's differences in the track of the low, there's differences in the nor'easter setup. It's also not a Category 5 hurricane with that kind of pull in the atmosphere. So are they going to interact? Yeah, they're going to interact. They're going to, become buddies at best.
Yeah.
They're not going to become best friends. They're not going to couple. They're not.
I know. I keep saying. You bring up the space coast. That actually brought up a question. Like, how up in space you have the International Space Station. Like, what part does the ISS play in helping forecast the weather? Because I know they can see the hurricanes from up there, like just looking.
Yeah, you have. I mean, you have so many different satellites, and you have the ISS, and you have different. There's so many different satellites that we've launched into space that help give us a a better view of what's going on, around the globe. And they're not on a mesoscale, so they're not, tight. They're more on a wider synoptic scale. They see everything. They see much wider of a range and give us better looks from higher up as to how big the storm is, what certain temperatures are at certain cloud heights in the atmosphere, cloud bases, this, that, and all the other. They play an integral role in what in the forecasting realm, and they show us a lot of things. They don't have certain aspects that are the same as a lower level ground radar from NWS Nashville, NWS Orlando, NWS Omaha, whatever. They obviously don't have those. Those are made for obviously seeing lower to mid levels of the storm, but they do give us a better look higher up and help out with extended looks into what you're seeing in the higher up levels of the atmosphere, into the mid levels, and they just don't have the capabilities to transmit some of the same data that a lower range, lower level atmospheric radar would translate. So they play their own integral role. It's it's kind of like if you work at Nissan or you work on a line or something like that. It's a well-oiled machine where one part of the line feeds down to the next part of the line and feeds down to the next part of the line and feeds down to the next part of the line and just keeps the information going, so that we have a constant look in the atmosphere as to what we, are potentially looking at. There's a cutoff if you go to you can probably see it on the GOES 16 Western Continental United States satellite, and if not, just go to one of the further out West Coast satellites. There's a pretty decent sized cutoff low that looks. I'll send you a picture of it later.
Okay.
That looks pretty phenomenal. Pretty cool looking satellite view of the West Coast cutoff low that's right there in between Oregon, Washington, and the Canadian border. That's sitting there. That is probably going to end up being responsible for some Pacific Northwest rain and maybe a little snow here shortly. Remains to be seen. I haven't checked into models or anything like that, but I do know that cutoff low is sitting there.
Well, I want to thank you again for coming on the episode, being a returning guest. It's been a very educational and very enjoyable episode, and if you don't mind, I would love to have you back on a future episode to talk about not just to get away from weather, but talk about maybe movies involving weather, like The Perfect Storm or Twisters, or The Day After Tomorrow.
Let me watch that one again first. Hang on. It's been years. Dude. I ain't seen that one in forever. But always a pleasure to be here. Always fun. Always have a good time. And obviously between the two of us, it's been an hour and 40 minutes almost. And if we pick the right question, we could probably go another 3 hours if we wanted to. But you got to work tomorrow, buddy. No, do you got to work tomorrow?
No, I don't. I'm off tomorrow.
So I mean, see, if somebody picked the right question, or if you picked the right question, or I thought of an idea, we could probably go another 3 hours on this thing. But always a pleasure to be here. I appreciate you having me, giving me some space to talk and nerd out and kind of hopefully educate some people about what's incoming, what's possibly going to happen. None of it's a definite with La Nina, severe weather season, fall fall tornado season. It's just going off of, historical patterns and historical context, and this is what we've seen. Does it open up the way for you know, elevated threats of severe weather being in La Nina having northwesterly flow? Yes, it does. There's a correlation between it. Scientists have made it, and tornado chasers and storm chasers and whatnot have made a direct correlation between it. But is it an exact? Are we saying this will happen? No, it's just an idea of past performances and how they stack up based on statistical scientific studies and data between La Nina, El Nino, and Enzo affecting the weather. That's all that is.
Yeah.
So again, it's not anything definite, but do appreciate you having me on, Michael. It's always a pleasure, always a good time. We covered a lot tonight.
And make sure y'all, if y'all haven't, go make sure y'all check out Nathan Reno on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and make sure y'all go check out his merch store and buy some Wheelie Weather merch. It is some cool designs.
I shut that down.
Oh well, okay then.
You're good.
It's no longer available.
You're good. I was gonna tell you when you were talking to JD, but I shut down the Shopify store.
Oh,
I'll get something back up. I'll get something back up and running, but it won't be Shopify.
You should try Printify.
Or Printify, that's what it was. Yeah, that's what I had. I'll get something back up and running, but it won't be Printify.
Well, yeah, I'll keep your eyes out on that, and make sure y'all also go check him out on make sure y'all go subscribe to him on YouTube and keep up to date on anything he posts weather related. If I can use this, I just got this from JD in the comments. You should check out Bonfire. That's what we use for a lot of our merch now.
You said Bonfire?
Yeah, Bonfire.
Okay. Yeah, I did. I shut the Printify store down, and I'll explain why in a couple text messages.
And if you haven't yet, also go check out the group that Nathan helps run. It's called Whether or Not. I am a part. I do what?
You have what?
I was gonna say I'm a part of the group. I love the group, the Whether or Not group. It's being a weather nerd. I started out just having weather anxiety, but now I love like talking about the weather, and Nathan is a big part of getting me into the weather scene. Love studying it.
Whether or not here it comes is the weather group on Facebook, and it's it just started out as an idea between 4 people to offer a place for people to post their weather photos, post their weather videos, just weather enthusiasts alike. And if you're one of those people who unfortunately does suffer with storm anxiety, downright lilapsophobia is something we need to talk about. Storm anxiety, lilapsophobia, it's a safe haven for that. We don't pick and choose who is there, who is not, members, anything like that. It's all alike. If you like being updated on storms, like being updated on the weather in your area, what's going on, all 50 states are covered. When the weather takes a turn, when Mother Nature decides that she's gonna play violently or nicely, either one, do what we got to do. Like I said, if you got storm anxiety, you got lilapsophobia, you don't like storms, you don't like snow, you don't like 80-degree temperatures, there's something in there for everybody. We try to be as cordial as possible, and like I said, all weather pictures, all weather videos, as long as they're obtained by you and taken by you, free to post, everything like that. Mm-hmm. We have a community of almost 24,000 strong and continuing to grow every day.
And one last thing I want to talk about, it's not weather, but I've changed in the corner. If you look in the corner now, not only is October Spina Bifida Awareness Month, but it's also Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I wanted to shine some light on that as well.
Yep. Always gotta shine light on Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
And because make sure you get tested, get a mammogram, and cancer to me is a big place in my heart because cancer runs in both sides of my family. So I try to shine awareness on it every chance that I get.
I have found out in the last 2 weeks, 5 people that I know that have some form of cancer. It went from 0 to 100 real quick. So yeah, go out there, get your test, get tested, get them checked, do what you got to do to stay here longer with us and come back for another episode or 2, or stay with your family, do what you got to do, but get checked.
And I've been changing this throughout the episode. This is the background. I've changed the background 3 times, but this is one of the possible variants that you will start seeing on some of the merch that I run with. You can't see most of the tornadoes.
You're a master over there at changing this and doing that and doing this. I'm just sitting here watching baseball and talking.
Yeah, this is the one I've been using. This is the one I've been using. This is the one I've been using for most of the episode. It's just shelf. I think that's a shelf cloud.
If you can, send it to me in Messenger, the actual photo, because to me that actually just looks like a high precipitation supercell. Looks like a pretty well sculpted. That looks like a spaceship.
Yeah, I just thought since we're going to talk on weather, it's not even a real image. It's not even that is not even a real image. It's just something I put through a generator.
Oh, okay. Something you pop through AI.
I didn't want to use a real image. I'd rather just use something made and not someone else's photos.
Yeah, no, you don't want to do that. I mean, I'm sure, and if you haven't, go check out Reed's post on copyright today. Check out Jordan Hall. Yep. They're all over copyright images today, so it's definitely not something to do.
No. And if you have been watching this live, we appreciate you watching this live. You watch this on the replay. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And I have been the host, the Media Maverick Mike Weldon. This has been Nathan Reno of Wheelie Weather. And we hope y'all catch us wherever y'all can catch us. And we'll catch y'all on the next one. This is the end. Good night.
Y'all have a good night. Appreciate you for tuning in.